And happy Thursday, everyone. My name is meteorologist Heather Cannon. It's time for our daily hail forecast, sponsored as always by See-Through Group, Maryland Law Group, American Contractors Show, as well as, who am I missing? Did I say Atlas yet? Roofing. As well as our new sponsor, Dent Source. Welcome, you guys. Thank you all for sponsoring our videos. So let's get right into our headlines for today. We did have a few 3-star map or greater maps that we made yesterday, so we will recap those. And then once again, we do have another potentially a busy day on tap. We have a large risk area from basically Texas all the way up to the Dakotas, and then in parts of the eastern part of the U.S. as well. And then as we get into our weekend, it looks like it's just going to keep on going with more areas that we will be watching for severe weather. So here are yesterday's storm reports. You can see it was once again a pretty busy day out there. We had a lot of hail reports as well, some wind reports from here in Oklahoma, mostly in the southern part of the state down into Texas. We did have some large hail in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, as well as near Austin, westward to San Angelo, and then more scattered reports here from Arkansas. Shreveport area got some large hail as well, northeastward into Tennessee and up into the northeast. So quite a bit of activity happened yesterday, and we will recap a few of the maps here. But before we do that, I should put this before the storm reports. I apologize, but we do have one event coming up, and that is this is actually a new event that we created. We had a very successful run this year for our hail forecast, and so we decided that we're also going to be doing a hurricane forecast. So there's only one date for this, and it is June 18th down in Orlando, Florida. So if you're wondering what we're thinking this year is going to be like in terms of our hurricane season, you can go and sign up for that. I believe we have our Eventbrite link on our Facebook page, so go and get your tickets before this sells out. So now let's talk about the two maps that we made yesterday. That was 3 stars or greater. The first one was a 4-star map that we made in Texas, and this one is called Sulphur Springs, San Angelo, Temple, and DFW. The largest hail that fell was up to 3 inches in diameter, and the amount of homes that were impacted by quarter-size hail or larger was just a little over 292,000. So again, Sulphur Springs, you guys got some pretty large hail there, just east of Winnsboro, east of Paris. And then we also, again, had a few severe storms that moved through the Dallas-Fort Worth area. There was one storm that happened through Arlington, and some earlier activity yesterday afternoon through Flower Mound, Plano, Brea, and then more activity here, again, in the San Angelo area. So we do have that map available on our site. So if you are not a subscriber but you would like to purchase that map, you can go ahead. If you are a subscriber, you should have access to that. And same deal with this 3-star map. This happened in the southern part of the Shreveport area where up to 2-inch hail fell. And in terms of quarter-size hail or larger, just over 39,000 homes were impacted. So again, both of those maps are on our sites for you guys to view. So here are current conditions across the lower 48. There are a few systems, really. There's one up here in the northern part of the U.S. There's a low pressure system here in southeastern Montana, and you can see this stationary front draped across the Dakotas into central Minnesota. We'll be watching this area for some severe weather this afternoon and evening. And then we have another one here in the south, as well as a cold front basically across the northeastern part of the country. So let's zoom on into these areas here. We do have a few severe storms to the south of Dallas-Fort Worth right now. A few warnings are in effect for those. just some cloud cover here in central Oklahoma, and then some stronger but not severe storms at this time here in parts of western Mississippi up into parts of southeastern Missouri. And then moving on north, you can see the spinning here with that low pressure system here in Montana. We got some snow falling on the cold side, unfortunately. I know we are nearing June, but we are still getting snow up there. Just a few showers here right now in parts of the Dakotas and into Minnesota. So we'll basically be watching from the Dakotas all the way down to Texas for the potential of severe weather this afternoon and evening. And then along and ahead of that same cold front that we've been tracking the last few days, we do have some storms going on right now. Boston, you're getting some heavier rain. We have a severe thunderstorm watch out for basically almost the entire state of Maine. And we have some storms popping up in the western part of the state, and a few warnings out for that as well. And then you can see some more scattered activity here along the parts of Kentucky westward again to southeastern Missouri. So zooming on out, taking a look at our temperatures, you can see where that cold front is. It's 75 in New York City, 82 up in Portland, Maine, and then the temperatures start to drop off a little bit as you go off to the west here, where temperatures are in the upper 60s to lower to mid 70s. So not that strong of a front here, but it is there. And then some 80s from basically Dallas down to Houston eastward to Atlanta. So that heat is starting to build up here, and it'll continue to stretch up to the north, and it will help fuel those storms later on in the evening. And again, behind that system in the north, you can see those temperatures drop off quite significantly. So here are our dew points. A little uncomfortable here in the southern part of the U.S. We have a 74-degree dew point in Dallas, 75 in New Orleans. So a little bit sticky, a bit better, but nearing that uncomfortable range with a 65-degree dew point in Wichita, and those 60s stretch off to the east here with a 64-degree dew point in Atlanta, and dry once you get behind these systems with only dew points in the 20s in Casper and Denver. So here's our significant hail model for this afternoon. You can see those brighter colors here showing up. So these are the areas that we'll be watching very carefully for that large hail. As we get into later on in the afternoon, those bright colors are still showing up. So we are expecting some large hail possible from, again, the Dakotas all the way down to Texas. But I do think the best chance to see the largest hail will be here in southern Kansas down into parts of Texas. We'll get into more details in just a moment. But yeah, you can see as we go through basically 9 p.m. Central Time when the sun is down, those colors are still quite bright here. So those storms will still be, if they do get going, that large hail will be possible through the late night and even into the overnight hours here. Still pretty impressive as we get near daybreak tomorrow morning. So let's take a look at a few future radars here. You guys know the deal. This is just one particular model, one run of that model. So this is just to kind of give you an idea of, how many storms, where they may be. So as we get into the rest of this afternoon, so this is at 1 p.m., not looking too bad here in Oklahoma and the Dallas-Fort Worth area, staying dry for the most part as well. But as we go later into the afternoon, into the early morning or early evening hours, we're stopping it at 5 p.m. here. You can see a few storms trying to fire up along and ahead of a dry line here in western Oklahoma and parts of western Texas. And then as we go through the rest of the evening, you can see those storms will start to move off to the east. And, this is particularly concerning here. This model is spinning out a potential supercell to the west of Oklahoma City. So you can see the coverage. There aren't a lot of storms, but the ones that do develop could produce a large hail as well as wind and a tornado threat as well. This is stopping at midnight, and this particular model has that storm moving on through. And as we continue through the rest of tonight into early tomorrow morning, those storms will continue to push off to the east, and by daybreak will be in Arkansas. So we're going to move up to the north now for the northern part of the risk. Same deal, basically, maybe a bit more in terms of a storm coverage. So right now we have that the rain and the snow in Montana. As we get into this afternoon and into the early evening, you can see some storms are expected to fire up here. Bismarck, eastward to maybe as far east as Fargo. And we'll be watching central South Dakota down into Nebraska and Kansas as well. So you can see those individual cells here, those will most likely be hail producers. And then as we get later on in the evening, you can see individual cells trying to fire up, and then it starts to line out. So we could potentially see some large hail here. It just depends how long those storms stay by themselves before it becomes more linear in storm mode. So by 10 p.m. you can see some individual cells trying to form here in Nebraska. However, they quickly start to form into a line. So again, something we'll be watching for this northern part of the risk. How long will those storms stay by themselves before they become linear in nature? So here we go. By basically 3 a.m. Omaha, you may get in on the action here. Looks mostly like it's going to be a wind threat, but on the southern end of lines, we have to keep an eye on what we call tail end Charlie. So we'll see if any of this can produce some hail later on tonight for you guys in Omaha. And then as we get to daybreak tomorrow morning, those storms will be pushing through the Des Moines area as well as Minneapolis. And then let's move on to the Tennessee Valley as well as Kentucky, into parts of the southern Gulf Coast states. So right now we have some rain going on in Mississippi as well as Arkansas. As we go through the rest of this afternoon, you can see some individual cells trying to fire up here. They should be more of the popcorn variety. Severe hail is definitely possible, but maybe quarter to $50 size will be the largest, maybe something larger, but the confidence is a bit low on that. So as we get through the rest of this evening, you can see that activity will continue to push off to the east, staying just to the south of Cincinnati, so central Kentucky, down to parts of Tennessee, and into the western parts of the Carolinas. We could see some hail there, and then it'll continue to push off to the east as we go through the rest of the evening and into the overnight hours. It should lose some of its steam as we lose that daytime heating. And then lastly, moving up to the northeast, again, we have a severe thunderstorm watch out for most of Maine right now. There are some severe thunderstorm warnings out for a few storms. And then Boston, you're getting some moderate to heavy rain right now. So as we go through the rest of this afternoon, some more individual cells may try to fire up here along and ahead of that front. Again, coverage doesn't look to be too crazy. It's just going to be very isolated in nature. And then as we go through the rest of this evening, stopping in at 8 p.m. Eastern time, you can see a lot of that storm coverage is already expected to decrease with just a few isolated showers and maybe a rumble of thunder here or there in the northeast as we get into later on this evening and into the overnight hours. And we should start to quiet down as we get into the early morning and your daybreak tomorrow morning. So here is today's hail forecast. Again, a pretty large area here for at least quarter size to $50 here in the shade of a yellow. Some larger hail though possible basically from the Dakotas all the way down to Texas. So let's zoom on in here. I'm being quite generous for here in Oklahoma City. We'll see what those supercells can do, but the environment will be ripe as we have that instability and the heating in place, as well as that dry line. So if we can get storms in here and they stay ongoing, they don't fizzle out before they reach us, we could see hail maybe up to tennis ball to baseball size here from Oklahoma City down to Dallas, Fort Worth. So, once again, Dallas, if you didn't get anything yesterday, we have another shot today. So again, a large hail here from Oklahoma City down to Dallas, and then up to 2 to 2.5 inch in diameter hail possible all the way up to Wichita, Kearney, northward all the way to Bismarck. So like the models showed, if the storms can stay by themselves, we could get some very large hail in these areas, but we'll see how long they can do that. Once they do line out, it should become more of a wind threat. We do have, and that is not Kansas City, that is supposed to say Omaha, apologize for that, but low end chance for severe hail for Omaha down to Kansas City, and then low end chance for a large area here from basically Memphis, Nashville, Charlotte, Charleston, all the way up to the northeast to Boston and even Portland, Maine. So that's for today. So now let's take a look at tomorrow, where some of the same areas may once again see another chance for some large hail. So tomorrow morning we'll be having some storms here and there in Arkansas. As we go through the rest of the morning and into the early afternoon hours, you can see a few storms here trying to fire up here in northern Arkansas, as well as parts of eastern Oklahoma and Dallas. This is at 5 p.m. You can see some individual cells trying to fire up right over you guys tomorrow evening. And then just a few hours later, you can see some pretty nasty looking storms here according to this model at 7 p.m. So basically dinner time to shortly after your work commute is over, we could once again see some severe weather moving through the Dallas-Fort Worth area, as well as eastern Oklahoma and parts of Arkansas. And all that activity will push off to the east tomorrow evening. Little Rock, as well as Fayetteville, southward to maybe as far south as Shreveport. We could see some hail with these as they continue to push off to the east-southeast late tomorrow and into Saturday morning. We'll be keeping an eye on Memphis as well. And then just some heavy rain here as we wake up on our Saturday morning in Mississippi, as well as here in western Alabama. And moving up to the north, you saw in the runs for today into tomorrow morning, that line, and this is basically at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. Des Moines, you could be waking up to some nasty weather here, and this line will continue to push off to the east tomorrow. And here we go, stopping it at 11 a.m., reaching the western parts of Illinois, down into central Missouri, as well as central Wisconsin. And then as we get into, this is at 3 p.m. tomorrow, those storms will be pushing through Chicago. We'll be watching for the chance for hail there, as well as those gusty winds. And you can see more storms trying to fire behind that main line. And that activity will continue to push off to the east. This is at 7 p.m. tomorrow evening, starting to lose its oomph though as they do so, although we could still see some large hail in Indianapolis and parts of western Michigan. And then as we get later on in the evening, really starting to lose their steam here as we get into late tomorrow and into Sunday or Saturday morning, with just a few showers and maybe a rumble of thunder or two sticking around. And then, yes, there is more still with that front. Some storms are possible here from basically the Virginias into the Carolinas, maybe parts of Georgia as well, westward into Tennessee and Kentucky. So that activity will push off or develop and push off to the east tomorrow afternoon. And then as we stop it at 5 p.m. tomorrow, you can see we'll be watching Nashville southwestward, maybe Atlanta, as well as, again, the Carolinas up into the Virginias with that activity. And with that heating of the day, you can see more coverage here with those storms across those areas. And then as we get into tomorrow evening, they'll still be sticking around here again in those same areas as well, from Kentucky to Tennessee, staying north of Atlanta, I think by 10 p.m. Central, 11 p.m. Eastern. And then as we go into tomorrow evening and into early Saturday, most of the area here should start to quiet down, although Memphis and parts of northwestern Mississippi will be keeping an eye on you guys for some possible remnants of severe weather there. And then as we get into early Saturday morning, we should start to quiet down a bit more. So here is tomorrow's forecast. Again, a large area here from basically Wisconsin all the way down to Texas. And we're going to take a look at a few areas here a bit more closely. The largest area that we'll be watching for that large hail, once again, at Dallas-Fort Worth, and maybe as far south as Austin, northeastward to Fayetteville, Arkansas. So this area will be watching for the largest hail tomorrow. Now low-end chance for Shreveport, moderate chance for you guys in Little Rock, and then basically all the way up to Wisconsin, we could see some large hail. Chicago, we'll see what those storms do as they go into the afternoon hours. If we can get those storms to stay by themselves, we could see some large hail, or we could just see a line. We shall see, but ping pong or golf ball size hail possible in Chicago, St. Louis, Indianapolis, and low-end chance for Nashville, and then more low-end chances for you guys here in Charlotte, maybe as far south as Atlanta. Oh, but wait, there is more. Of course, I mentioned that, we're in a very active pattern, and that's going to continue through our weekend. So here is our jet stream for tomorrow. You can see we have a shortwave trough here in the middle of the U.S. and into the northern parts of the country. Ahead of that trough, we'll be watching a zone for severe weather, again, from Chicago all the way down to Dallas and eastward to the Carolinas. Then as we get into Saturday, we start to see another short wave moving on in, and we could potentially have a very busy day here in the southern plains from basically Kansas to Oklahoma, Dallas, some of the same areas that we've been watching the last few days, and that could potentially be a pretty nasty system as well. And then as we get into a Sunday, that trough moves off to the east, and so that risk area will be pushing off a bit to the east as well. And then as we get into Monday, that upper level low will be moving into the Great Lakes region, and we'll possibly have to watch parts of the eastern U.S. as we get into our Monday. But for now, we're just going to focus our attention for basically Saturday and Sunday. So here we go. Saturday is actually a pretty large area that we could see some severe weather. This is the area shaded in red, although the best chance for that severe weather is going to be, again, in Kansas, so including Wichita, Oklahoma City, Dallas, eastward to Little Rock, and central Missouri, and then more of a marginal threat here and there for the rest of this area. So there's that. And then Sunday, that area shifts a little bit to the east as that trough does so as well. So St. Louis, Cincinnati, maybe just south of Chicago, all the way down to Memphis, we'll be watching at this area for our Sunday, the day before Memorial Day. So I believe that's all I have for you for now. Make sure you follow us on X or Twitter, whatever the heck you want to call it. Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, as well as our TikTok page. Make sure you hit see first on our Facebook page so you do not miss any of our live videos. If you'd like to get set up with a demo, you can scan the QR code above, and that will get you set up with that. Then if you have any questions or concerns, you can call us at 855-334-4245. You can email us at info@hailtrace.com and check out our website at www.hailtrace.com. And I am meteorologist Heather Kay. I hope you all have a great rest of your Thursday.